The demand for electricity is growing in the world on a global basis. By some estimates from 2003 to 2030, global electricity demand will double. Look at the next bullet, though. Projection is that developing countries by 2030 will actually use 30% more electricity than developed countries. And China will surpass the U.S. as the largest user of electricity in the world. So there is a world out there that is growing in energy and electricity demand at an increasingly rapid rate, and they're using all sources, coal, gas, as well as nuclear power. Clearly, in the situation of this increased demand, if greenhouse gas emissions are a problem, nuclear has to be considered, so we'll begin to make the case for nuclear as part of the answer. We have not licensed a new nuclear plant since the 70s in this country. Absolutely nothing has happened. Another factoid for you. If we had more time, I'd run the survey, but how many people were killed at 3 Mile Island? None. How many people were hurt at 3 Mile Island? 0. How many workers inside the plant were hurt at 3 Mile Island in any way? 0. So, you know, there's this aura of 3 Mile Island. The reality is, as bad as it was, and it was bad, the fuel melted. But it stayed inside the containment. In spite of all the problems, it did what it was supposed to do. Unfortunately, that caused a backslide to nuclear power in the U.S. that we have yet to recover from, and that was 1979. So what's happening now in the U.S. is there is a convergence of forces that are really bringing us with nuclear as a clear answer going forward. Whether it's the Democratic side of the House or the Republican side of the House, in 2004 and 2005, things began converging that nuclear needs to be part of our solution going forward. I just give you this, maybe of interest. It's a satellite photo, obviously, of the United States at night, and shows the lights. Not surprisingly, east of the Mississippi is where you see all the light. DOE talks about how many new generation plants would equivalently be needed by 2030, and we show underneath that if, with the electricity growth, conservative estimates of electricity growth, just to keep nuclear at the 20% level, we need about 60 plants between now and 2030. That's not likely to happen. So the percentage contribution of nuclear power to electricity is likely to decline. So how are we going to power our plants? Well, it won't be so much coal, but it's going to be with a lot of expensive gas. And so we'll be trading off oil dependence, which is really more tied to automobiles, it's not tied to electricity, for dependence on LNG, probably coming from countries and areas that are not very well controlled or stable. Economics for nuclear power are coming more and more into balance. This graph, starting in 95, is all nominal dollars. So even in nominal dollars, the green line on the bottom is the production cost, not the capital cost to build it, but the production cost to operate it. Everything included, nuclear power has been going down since 1995 steadily in nominal dollars. So obviously that means we're doing a lot better than meeting the rate of inflation. Coal plant production has been doing pretty good as well, ticking up toward the end as coal prices started to move, and the graph actually clocks out in about mid-07 with the data. So it's gone up and it's come down since then. But the top two, we show oil, really not relevant, the brown, but blue is gas, and that's very relevant. So the production of electricity from gas is more variable, where the source comes from, and it's higher cost. To be sure, gas plants are lower capital cost in the beginning. Nuclear plants are very expensive on the front end, but once they're built, they just generate electricity at phenomenally low costs. Global warming is absolutely a reality. The bars here show what the lifetime CO2 is from each of these generation sources. And so nuclear generates no CO2 but has a 17 there. Why is that? It's because the components that are built for the nuclear plant are built using electricity that itself has some CO2 emissions. So life cycle, you take it all together, and we come out at 17, the same as hydro, geothermal, and wind. And by the way, better than biomass and solar. So on a full life cycle cost, nuclear is tremendous. Public opinion research polls, the trend line, the green line on the top, starting in 1983, shows what the public's view of nuclear power has been. 1983, it was less than 50% favorable. You can follow the trend line up and down. Again, 63 was in 07. It's actually 66% now favorable to nuclear power. It's a steady trend going up. People are getting comfortable with it. No problems in the U.S. And many people who live around nuclear plants, go to the bullet toward the bottom, 82% of residents around nuclear plants love them, and they want new ones. Why? Contribution to the tax base is phenomenal. In southern Maryland, Calvert County, we built every grade school, middle school, high school, junior college. And there are people who will tell the story that their kids started in kindergarten when the plant was first built, and they were able to go to a brand new school just opening up over their years of schooling, consistent with the tax-based contributions and building of schools. And the people who live around the plant, if they don't work in the plant, they know somebody who works in the plant, and they're good people, and they become enormously comfortable with how we actually run nuclear power plants. The quote at the top is from Governor O'Malley of Maryland, an absolute Democrat. He came to Calvert Cliffs a skeptic. I walked him through the plant for 3 hours. This happens over and over again. After 3 hours of walking through the plant, we didn't know what he was going to say at a press conference. He got up there, and that's what he said. It was on the front page of the Washington Post. He now is an absolute zealot for nuclear power and what will be the new unit built at Calvert Cliffs. But what success requires, lower right, an army of advocates. And I hope I've maybe seated a few advocates here around the room. So appreciate your attention. Hope I've given you something to walk away with. Thanks very much.